Hey, thanks everyone. Good morning. And Alice was taking me back to my first job in publishing, sales and publishing, at the local B. Dalton bookseller at the mall, where we had the little paper-thin books in print, but we also had a huge repository that was refreshed weekly with microfiche, and we would look up our special orders on microfiche to see which of the various book jobbers had that book that week and all of that. So thanks for the flashback, Alice. I'm Christine Orr. I'm the sales director for Ringgold, and the easiest way to explain what we are is we are handling the places to Orchid's people. Okay, and again, we're plumbing, trains, interconnecting cities, interconnecting journeys. We send our data out on a lot of different journeys throughout the Scholarly ecosystem. So again, persistent identifiers are part of that evolving infrastructure. Okay, so I'm going to talk about our Ringgold ID, which is a unique ID for institutions in the scholarly sphere. Again, just one kind of entity that we need to disambiguate and talk about. Again, if the others are people, places, and things. So we talk a lot about those different kind of entities around Ringgold. So I want to introduce who we are and where we fit into the universe of persistent IDs. We're a small for-profit database publisher, and in our founders' work with OUP back in 2003, it was evident that this really was not a unique problem, and the whole community could really benefit from having a persistent identifier for institutions. So we began building this authority file, and each one was uniquely identified with the Ringgold ID, each institution and each component of an institution. But in order to have the persistent ID be truly useful across the community and not just be something that was a solution for a single publisher, we needed the larger database to be responsive. Responsive to change in the institutional landscape, because organizations, like people, do change over time, and responsive to our clients and the people who've adopted us. A persistent identifier is only useful if it applies to all the entities in a particular data set, all my author affiliations, all the clients I'm licensing to. And we also needed to be responsible. We had to develop taxonomies, systems for maintenance, and keeping that database kind of solid and responsible over time. Okay. Oh. Sorry, I'm coming to grips with this. Okay, here we go. A lot of people will ask if we're a standard. We're not an ISO standard. However, we're interoperable with and we're mapped to lots of other standards. We hold that in our database, ISNIs for institutional identifiers, and we map to other bridge identifiers, and we're the only registration agent for ISNIs for organizations. One of our C-level staff is actually sitting on the ISNI board, and we spend a lot of time and resources promoting other standards. We're very broadly adopted, so sometimes people will say we're kind of a de facto standard. We've got about 70 organizations in our scholarly space that have implemented and adopted the Ringgold ID to persistently identify the institutions that matter to them. And there's more complexity associated with institutions than one might really think, and part of that comes from the fact that they're playing multiple functions for us as publishers and in the scholarly landscape. So that same, I like to call it Oxford University an awful lot, that's going to be the home of researchers. They could be subscribing to your journals. Oxford University Press is a publisher, so there's lots of different roles just within that one organization. And as scholarly publishers, our systems have grown up around the functions that institutions play rather than kind of uniquely trying to join up those organizations across the multiple functions. So we want to be able to understand our total relationship with organizations to facilitate transparency, reporting, and interoperability with systems. And people will very often ask us, well, how hard is that? It's just, I just need a list of the institutions. So if real estate, what's the law? Location, location, location. And at Ringgold, we say hierarchies, 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 because it's the feature of them that makes them really different than any other kind of entity. People don't own each other. They don't merge and demerge. They don't have subsidiary components and things like that. So the key within our database is to understand and provide that connective tissue for departments, schools, universities, systems, and other kinds of organizations. The other thing, there's a few other little things that make it kind of tricky. Unlike Orchid or any kind of a personal identifier, who would be the one person at a company or a university, who would be responsible for that record? Would it be the librarian? Would it be the provost? So they don't really have a single person who could be responsible for maintaining that and understanding, the rules for disambiguation within a larger repository. So it's helpful to have a third party do that kind of work. Also, there's different types of organizations, different functions they're playing, and also, we need to know if this is a company, or is this a teaching hospital or a for-profit hospital, or is this a department of study versus a company that's involved in that kind of content work. And the other thing is, there's more than them than meets the eye. Like I said, a lot of people say, I just need a list of ARLs. I just need a list of the colleges and universities in the US. But you scratch the surface and immediately you realize, no, I don't just care about Harvard University. I really do care about Harvard Medical School and Harvard Business School and the Broad Institute that's also tied to MIT. And we all have global author and customer bases. So it becomes multilingual, and the complexities just kind of go from there. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about what the Identify database is. It's a database that's ever growing. Like I said, we're responsive to our clients, and we have about 420,000 uniquely identified institutions in the database at the moment, and it grows all the time. It's growing at about 5%. It used to grow really rapidly, 20-30% a year, but now that we're kind of getting long in the tooth, we're really kind of adding at the margins, and we've really shifted to a maintenance mode, and it needs to be kind of governed and maintained over time at this point. But we do cover all kinds of institutions, so there's corporate, there's hospitals, we don't care we're agnostic as to the type of institution. What we care is that it's playing a role in this sphere, okay? And there are it's more than just an Ringgold identifier and the official name of the institution. We do a couple of different things. So first thing is disambiguating it. Our researchers have to understand, UCLA, okay, there's 3 of them. Which one are we talking about? So we need to have that full legal name, and we need to disambiguate it with a Ringgold ID, as you can see on the left side there. The next thing is, I like to say, we were founded by librarians, so we live to categorize and classify things. So we apply we get so excited about it. So we apply between 10 and 25 pieces of structured metadata, and we've developed taxonomies around those pieces of metadata to describe the institutions. And then we interoperate with some other things. So we have, ISNIs and tier classifications. We also have our own tiering methodology to cover everything in the database, size, metrics, location. We have an 800 item deep subject taxonomy for institutions. What is their mission? Are they involved in research or just teaching? That kind of thing. And then at the bottom you can see the hierarchies or the family trees. So we need to understand that, and I'll pick on UCLA this time, my 2 favorite organizations these days. The Herb Alpert School of Music and the David Geffen School of Medicine are all part of the UCLA hierarchy, part of the UC system. So we kind of join them all together. So that's what we do there. Okay. So really, getting back to kind of the plumbing and the infrastructure, we're really happy to be the thing inside the thing. And a lot of times we will work with clients and they're not even aware, like certain areas of the company might not even be aware that we're part of the data that's kind of embedded here and around. So we're the underlying institutional data that helps power some other intermediary systems. For example, we're actually the institutional authority file that's inside ORCID. We have a lot of clients that will embed our data inside Data Salon, which is kind of like a viewer and a BI tool, CCC, ScholarOne, Aries, Kudos, and our persistent identifiers for institutions are helping to join those up. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and we'll be happy to take questions later on. Thanks, everyone.